Take a moment to prepare yourself, for beyond this door lies knowledge and wisdom of the ancient past, with modern science and religion of the present, the virtual archives of the universe. Welcome to the Order of Sen-Taur.
In various religious traditions, an angel is a supernatural being who serves God. Abrahamic religions often depict angels as benevolent celestial intermediaries between God and humanity. Other roles include protectors and guides for humans, such as guardian angels. The word angel comes to us from the Old English word angel and the Old French word angele. Both of these derive from the late Latin word angelus, which in turn was borrowed from the late Greek angelos, or Angelia. Some say Angelia was the daughter of Zeus and Hera, later becoming known as a Teutonic deity, which means belonging or inhabiting the underworld. However, there is another school of thought that Angelia, or Angelia, was a message personified, and the daughter of the Greek god Hermes. Angelia is a translation of the Hebrew word malka, meaning messenger, and it would make sense that this goddess would be the daughter of Hermes, as he is known himself as a messenger and attributed to giving humans the written word in the form of Thoth. In the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, and the Greek New Testament, the word angel refers to heavenly and human messengers. When translated into Latin, the meaning of the word is split, and human messengers are referred to as nuntius, or simply the messenger. In the English translation, legatus was used, meaning a high-ranking Roman military officer, an ambassador, sent, dispatched, etc. While alternatively, all heavenly beings except God were then referred to as angels or angeles. The Bible uses many terms to reflect heavenly beings: sons of God, sons of the mighty, heavenly hosts, holy ones, holy watchers, etc. Where does this hierarchy of angels come from? I can tell you where it does not come from, and that is the Bible. Although the Bible says Michael is an archangel, a prince angel. Thomas Aquinas, Italian Dominican friar and priest, who lived from 1225 to 1274, was an influential philosopher, theologian, and jurist in the tradition of scholasticism from the country of Aquino in the Kingdom of Sicily, Italy. In his work Summa Theologica, the best known of Thomas Aquinas' works, some say the most important book on Catholic theology ever written, Thomas lays out a hierarchy in heaven. Thomas acquired his information from the works of Dionysius. Well, here's where it gets confusing. Dionysius was an Athenian judge who lived in the 1st century, converted to Christianity, and was mentioned in Acts as a student of Paul the Apostle. His association with Paul gave his works a certain amount of apostolic credibility. Many books were said to have been written by him. They were attributed to him in the Middle Ages. However, De Coelesti Hierarchia is a pseudo-Dionysian work on angelology, written in Greek and dated to the 5th century. We now know the same Dionysius did not write it, but instead it was written by a Dionysius that lived in the 5th century in Syria. Thomas, however, thought it was the work of the Dionysius of Athens and gave it near apostolic authority. Introduction aside, let's delve deeper and look at the angelic hierarchy, starting at the bottom. Angels, archangels, and principalities. This hierarchy is closest to mankind, and their responsibilities reflect that. They can take human form. In Genesis 18:2-5, Abraham saw 3 angels. And this is where guardian angels fit. Thomas Aquinas separated the ranks of angels based on their knowledge of the universe. He said these angels had the least understanding of God's plans of all the angels and were ordered to protect individuals and families. Next, we have archangels. The name would make us think that they are top-ranking, but no. According to medieval Catholic theology, they are second from the bottom. Archangels deliver the most important messages and do the most critical jobs for God on earth. They are also the only angels to have names, if you don't count fallen angels. There are 2 named angels every Christian will agree on. The first is the Archangel Gabriel. His name means God is my strength. He is the foremost messenger of God. Gabriel is first seen in the book of Daniel, where he explains a vision Daniel saw. He is also the angel who famously announced to Mary and Luke about the coming of Christ. While not explicitly called an archangel in the Bible, other works like the Book of Enoch do describe him as such. Catholics, Orthodox, Anglicans, and Lutherans all call him an archangel. Next, we have Michael, whose name means who is like God. He is the chief of the angels, protector of Israel and the church. Michael is in the book of Daniel, but most prominently featured in the New Testament book of Revelations, where he defeats the devil in the form of a great dragon. Most Christian scholars agree these 2 angels are archangels. There are 2 others usually included, Raphael and Uriel. Raphael, whose name means God heals, from the book of Tobit, an apocryphal book of the Old Testament, not included in the modern Jewish Bible, accepted by Catholics and Orthodox, but not Protestants. Raphael is mentioned in the Talmud. The Hebrew Talmud means study or learning, and typically refers to a collection of ancient teachings regarded as sacred by Jews from the time it was compiled through to the modern times, and is still considered sacred by traditional Jews. Uriel, whose name means flame of God, is found in the 2nd book of Esdras, also considered an apocryphal work. Many, if not most Christian denominations widely accept these 4 archangels. But I'm a Wiccan. I don't believe in the Bible, you say. Let me explain. That is your right to believe or not what you choose to. If, however, that is your attitude, you will miss out on many historical, philosophical, and theological truths. The Order of Sen-Taur seeks wisdom where it's found, and we are not prejudiced against any faith, Christians, or the Bible. There are beings similar to archangels in other religious traditions besides Christianity and Judaism. The word archangel derives from the Greek archangelos, the Greek prefix arch meaning chief. In Judaism, the highest ranking angels, usually referred to as archangels in English, are given the title Seraphim, which means princes. Daniel 10:13 and 12:1 refer to Michael as one of the first princes and the great prince, respectively. In Jewish literature, besides the book of Daniel, there is the story of Jacob wrestling with God, or an angel of God in some interpretations. Lot also encountered angels who warned him of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah before the event. Jewish literature also mentions the highest of the angels, Metatron. Though he is not canonical in all faiths, he is in the Book of Enoch. It is commonly speculated that Jewish interest in angels developed during their captivity in Babylon, when names of the angels were brought back from there, according to the 3rd century Rabbi Simeon ben Lachish of Tiberias. In Merkabah, a school of early Jewish mysticism and Kabbalistic mysticism, Metatron is considered one of the highest angels, is briefly mentioned in the Talmud, and is a significant figure in Merkabah's mystical texts. We will get to more about the Kabbalistic angels in a moment. The named archangels in Islamic tradition are likely the same angels but with different names: Jibriel, Michael, Israfel, and Azrael. Some traditions identify up to 8 archangels by their names. The names vary depending on the belief system. Jeremiel is mentioned in 2nd Esdras, as is Uriel. In the Book of Enoch, chapter 20, we find a list of 7 holy angels who watch: Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, Uriel, Sariel, Ragiel, and Remiel. The book The Life of Adam and Eve, also known in its Greek version as the Apocalypse of Moses, is an apocryphal work of writings that recounts the lives of Adam and Eve after they departed the Garden of Eden to the time of their deaths. Has, of course, Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael, but also adds Joel. Many experts in philosophy, theology, and anthropology believe that Zoroastrianism is where the angels have been filtered from, coming from the concept of the beneficent immortals that resemble archangels called Amesha Spentus. The Kabbalah has archangels assigned to a Sifra, or Sifrat, which requires an in-depth study on its own, aside from this essay, to determine who these archangels are and what their job is in this tradition. There are a variety of angels found in Kabbalistic literature. One of the prolific and influential Torah scholars, Maimonides, who lived from 1138 to 1204, composed a Jewish angelic hierarchy in his work Mishnah Torah, counting 10 ranks of angels. The Mishnah Torah is a rabbinic Jewish religious law code. While there are over 100 references to angels in the New Testament, the word archangel only appears there twice, once in 1 Thessalonians and once in Jude. The Book of Tobit quotes Raphael's words, where he plainly states that he is an angel, one of 7, who stand and serve before the glory of the Lord. In the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, one of the primary rituals of their tradition has an invocation that includes: before me, Raphael; behind me, Gabriel; on my right hand, Michael; on my left hand, Uriel. Thus you see the angels assigned to the watchtowers of the east, west, south, and north, respectively. So, the top of the lowest hierarchy are principalities. Their name and the names of 3 other choirs of angels we'll get to in a moment. They all come from a single line in Colossians, one of Paul's letters. Colossians 1:16. For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether be they thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. From the King James Version. Dionysius interpreted these names as ranks of angels. Principalities are thought to have responsibility over large groups of people, nations, churches, and large organizations. Because of this, they do not typically interact with individuals. The middle hierarchy includes powers, virtues, and dominions. These angels deal very little with humans. Little is written about them by Dionysius or Thomas Aquinas. Powers are warrior angels, who make up most of God's celestial army. They have the power to suppress evil and demonic forces. Virtues, whose name doesn't appear in the Bible as referring to an angel or a group of angels, but instead we find them in other esoteric writings. Virtues have power over the elements, meaning they make natural phenomena happen. They assist in miracles on earth. The highest in the middle tier are dominions. They are only described as having authority over other angels below them, making them middle management. The highest hierarchy is the thrones, cherubim, and seraphim. These angels spend all their time with God in the celestial realm and have virtually nothing to do with humans. Thrones are likely the most famous rank in the biblically accurate angel iconography, and these are the ones that are described as looking like wheels with eyes on them, which comes from Ezekiel in one of his visions and in the book of Enoch. Ezekiel 1:16 through 18. The appearance of the wheels and their work was likened to the color of a beryl. They are four, had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. When they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. As for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. Most scholars believe this is a metaphor to describe the wheels of God's throne. Some artists interpret it as the circles of angels flying around God in heaven, not that the angels themselves look like wheels. Their job is to hold up God's throne. The cherubim, famously referenced in both songs and art, are often illustrated as young babies with wings, typically from Renaissance art. However, it is not the way they were described in the Bible. The biblical reference to cherubim in Genesis is when God places a cherubim in the Garden of Eden, holding a flaming sword to guard it. Their primary function, then, is to protect sacred spaces. 2 images of cherubim were placed on top of the Ark of the Covenant. In Ezekiel's vision, the cherubim were guardians of God's throne. Ezekiel describes them as having 4 faces, one as a man, one as a bull, one as a lion, and one as an eagle. They have 2 sets of wings, 2 that are wrapped around themselves, and 2 that are used to fly with. Some artists illustrate them with bodies of beasts, sometimes holding things or having hands and feet. Human-animal hybrid images are common in Middle Eastern mythology and religion. An example would be the Sphinx in Egypt and Lamassu from ancient Mesopotamia. Thomas Aquinas and other medieval theologians thought the devil, or Lucifer, was a cherubim before the fall. The highest of all the angels is the seraphim, most prominently found in Isaiah 6, where they are described from a vision. Isaiah said they surrounded God's throne, having each 6 wings, 2 covering their eyes, 2 covering their feet, and 2 used to fly. These are the ones who tend God's throne and constantly sing, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is filled with his glory." The name seraphim is usually translated as burning ones. This could mean that they were beings of fire or light, but the word seraph means serpent. They are never, however, depicted as snakes. Let's go deeper still. There is a text on ancient angel magic, one of the oldest surviving books of magic in the Western world, the Book of Secrets, or the Sefer HaRazim. The book is said to have been revealed to Noah by Raziel. Raziel is an angel whose name means in Hebrew, the secret of God. The book has survived, having been passed down through the ages. Cosmology, angelology, and Greco-Egyptian magic are mixed into it, and it describes magical practices for many different outcomes. This text comes before many of the occult practices prevalent in the European Middle Ages and forms a link between late classical and medieval times ritual magic. This text is one of the thousands of fragments stored in Geniza, which is Hebrew for hiding place, of the Ben Ezra Synagogue in Cairo, Egypt. Because of religious respect, Jewish texts cannot be thrown away. Instead, they are stored in a geniza, or a storehouse, to await burial. The ones in this synagogue were never buried. Over 400,000 texts were discovered there in the late 1800s. These texts are still being examined by scholars today. In this collection, Mordecai Margoloth, a Jewish scholar visiting Oxford in 1963, discovered the texts and restructured the ancient magical manuscript from 1963 to 1966. Scholars date the originals to the 3rd or 4th centuries. The Sefer HaRazim combines both to culminate in a text where the heavenly inhabitants provide humans with access via angels to supernatural powers. It sets the stage for later angelic and demonic magic. The text was found and likely produced in Egypt. The introduction of the Sefer HaRazim reveals the history of the antediluvian text. That's before the flood. It also describes the various heavens and their angelic guardians, along with the angelic encampments and military-like divisions. It describes their powers. The Magus can harness these powers from the angels. Interestingly, Noah inscribed the text Raziel gave him onto a sapphire, reminding us of the famed alchemical text Hermes Trismegistus had inspired on the emerald tablet. Per the introduction, Noah gains cosmological wisdom and magical powers from understanding the text. The Sefer HaRazim was transmitted through the ages, eventually coming to Solomon, who uses it to manipulate demons. It is a core concept in the history of Solomonic magical tradition, and it was ultimately transmitted through the prophets to the sages and down to its current form. From the introduction are the various firmaments, layers of heaven, and the powers of the angels are somewhat revealed. The second firmament, heavenly realm, is said to be full of terror and inhabited by countless divisions of angels. The second heaven is divided into 12 sublayers, or malo, as the text refers. Each mala has 9 and 20 angelic guardians, with a commanding officer. Per the text, it is possible to approach these guardians of the mala. To accomplish this, one's heart must be purified of sin, refraining from wine, meat consumption, and other requirements. For example, the sixth mala has 17 different angels named in the text, and these angels are said to be humble, but their faces are full of glory. The angelic names are sometimes familiar and sometimes not. Some are impossible to pronounce, and magic systems, catalogs of angels, and later demons become typical. Later on in the text is another spell to prevent horses from stumbling in a race. While the entire magical spell is interesting, one part indicates that angels who drive the stars will drive the horse you want to win by this spell. The spell will cause the horses to win and protect them from other interference, specifically from other magic or witchcraft. This indicates there was an entire culture of cursing and counter-cursing in that culture at that time. There are a variety of other spells in this work that we will not elaborate on here. However, the angels described in the text are quite interesting. A particular angel mentioned in the fourth encampment of the first firmament, Christos, spelled in the Hebrew letters but reflecting the Greek name Christ. Other angels in the text include the fourth step of the third firmament, and we find two Jewish people. One seems to be the Messianic Jewish leader Shimon bar Kokhba, who led the rebellion against the Romans in 135 of the Common Era. In the same encampment, we find the demon, not an angel, Asmodeus, who also appears in the apocryphal book of Tobit, the Babylonian Talmud, and throughout Jewish lore. The Sefer HaRazim would eventually be translated into Arabic and then Latin, thereby influencing the angelic demonic magic that became so important later on. A translation by Michael Morgan can be obtained online. Today, people report more encounters and sightings of angels than can be elaborated on here. Angels in cloud formations are a familiar occurrence, one that everyone witnesses. A famous angel of cloud formation is the 9/11 photo from Rich McCormick, published in various places online and in magazines. Disbelievers and skeptics can say this is just an unusual cloud. It is undoubtedly celestial. As we learned earlier in this work, angels can take on human form. At least some can. Many stories have surfaced over the last 50 years of being saved from car accidents by angels in human guise who seem to disappear right after the person is rescued, never to be seen again by that person. Numerous angels have been spotted on camera, perhaps tricks of the light and dust, but they are evidence in some form. Here's a photograph of security camera footage from Glenn Thomas. The angel with the sword is seen clearly above his truck. Several additional photos from another source of a ranch in Texas and their trail camera caught some images here, and we'll let you judge what these images are. Baylor University National Study indicates that more than half of all Americans believe a guardian angel has helped them. Countless stories come from hospital or hospice experiences. One lady reported to me that she encountered a long-haired, bearded man who comforted and talked her out of suicide when she was young. As usual with these happenings, she didn't know who he was and never saw him again. Another frequent story of angelic encounters is help from nowhere. A lady told of running out of gas in the middle of the night with her children asleep in the back seat. Alone and with no cars around, a man came out of the darkness to help her and pushed her vehicle over the off-ramp rise to roll into a gas station where she could get fuel. The man disappeared, and she was not even able to thank him. Some can see spirits, see in the spirit, and see angels, guardian angels, and spirits of those who have passed on. Most won't tell about it because they believe people will think they are lying, crazy, or both. Yet their encounters and visions are authentic. Often this gift comes with the ability to see past, present, or future events. One prominent recent author, Lorna Byrne, reports that she has seen angels since childhood and hears them as well. Miss Byrne had several books published on the subject. Many people have photographs of orbs, and others tell of occurrences with beings of light. One thing is sure, all of these tales have one thing in common. The experience brings a feeling of being protected, at peace, and a sense of security.
We hope that you found this video to be informative and enjoyable. Thank you for watching.